Hello whiskey fans, today we're looking at a whiskey that I bought in the supermarkets here in the UK, and it's produced by Sovereign Brands, which is a subdivision of Pernod Ricard. It's the same people who make Bumbu, which in my opinion is an absolutely awful drink, which is currently being challenged legally as to whether it should have the right to even call itself rum. But this isn't Bumbu, this is the Deacon blended Scotch whisky. So depending on where you buy this one, shops around me, some of them have it in the box, some of them don't. It is a very fancy box. I love that Plague Doctor motif that they've put on the front there. I don't really know what it's got to do with whiskey, but I like it. Minimal blurb on the back there. As for the bottle itself, it is equally fantastic. Something like this. It is opaque glass, which some people are going to hate. I don't mind it. I don't really care too much about knowing how much whiskey is actually left in the bottle when I'm drinking it. It's not something that's ever bothered me, but if you're the kind of person that gets really wound up by things like Bruichladdich, where you haven't got a visual aid as to how much you've got left, then this probably isn't one for you. As for the bottle, I think this one's really nice. I'm possibly a little bit concerned that I would assume that this is like a metallized spray finish that's been applied to the bottle here, possibly makes it harder to recycle, but it's probably safe to say that this is going to be a love it or hate it presentation, and this is probably going to mean absolutely nothing at all to 95% of the people watching here, but this whole feel of it really reminds me of the Murder of Crows figure from Bioshock Infinite. And as I say that, if you hear a whooshing noise, you are one of the 95%. Even better than the bottle on this one, though, is the stopper. Because someone has finally done something innovative and outside the box when it comes to stoppers to the closure on a bottle of Scotch. It's a fully synthetic cork stopper, and I think it's actually all one piece. It's not attached to a wooden stopper as they quite often are, and it's hard to tell if it actually is all one piece, but I think it is. But anyway, that is a rubbery polymer stopper there, which I'm undecided if I think that they're a great idea for long-term storage of spirits, but certainly with short-term storage, they solve a lot of the problems that I personally have been experiencing lately with natural corks. So absolutely bravo to Pernod Ricard for choosing to do something different and new and trying to solve some of those problems. It is interesting though that they didn't decide to do it on something expensive and premium. They went for this very bottom shelf, affordable product and kind of an untraditional product as well to try this new and unproven thing. So the whiskey in this one, it is a blended Scotch whisky, so it's a blend of single malts and grain whiskies. They tell us that some of the single malt in this is coming from Speyside and some of the rest is coming from Islay. They don't tell us where. They don't mention the grain that goes into this or the malt content. It's bottled at a flat minimum strength of 40%. It's very much a consumer bottom shelf presentation despite that fancy bottle. There is, it's probably safe to say, an element of style over substance with this, but that doesn't mean that it can't be good value. So let's get some in the glass and see what we've got. So this is the colour, natural or otherwise, that we've been given. My guess would be that there is a bit of colouring in there, but with a whiskey of this calibre and price point, you kind of expect it. So the Deacon blended Scotch whisky on the nose. Surprisingly peaty and smoky and industrial. Quite mineral as well, a note of wet gravel on the nose of this one, but very industrial, fumy peat. Very strong peat for a 40% mass-produced supermarket whiskey. A note of machine oil, light machine oil on the nose. Quite salty. With some nice orangey sherry. There's definitely a sweet sherry influence in this one. Like Oloroso seasoned American oak. Nice sherry. Smooth toasted grains. And a little bit of fizzy maltiness as well. So, all going very well so far. It's not weak, it's not young, it's not immature. Let's see how it tastes. Sweet and salty oranges on the arrival of this one, as well as a note of a little bit of a challenging vegetable oil note, and some salty, smoky beach bonfire coming through from that quite prominent peatiness. A little bit of smoked ham on the palate and a little bit of smoked agave, but it has to be said that it is on the thin side. It's definitely thin and a little bit too light. Yeah, despite those bold flavor profile, those bold tasting notes, the experience, the intensity, the mouthfeel, and the intensity of the flavors is light and thin and underpowered. Also a little bit of a coconut grain whiskey and a little bit of a tired cask note on the late palate as well. Gonna have one more sip and look at the finish. Sweet and salty and smoky. A little bit of bitter youth on the finish. And that immaturity and more of the grainy qualities, the grain whiskey qualities that is, start to come out on the late palate and the finish. Still with some of those nice sweet orangey sherry notes on the late palate and finish, but overall very light and quite underpowered. So all in all, very, very nice nose. I think that the nose on this one especially, it's a really great mix of quite fierce peat, that wonderful sweet orangey sherry, and the maltiness. But as with almost all 40% whiskies, the palate just doesn't keep up because they've reduced the strength too much. And as I always say, or as I've been saying recently, you end up having to take bigger sips of this whiskey to get the same intensity of flavour that you get from something bottled at 46%. So it's really quite a false economy. And even when you do take those bigger sips, because it is that over diluted, it does tend to fade quite quickly. Interestingly, one of the first things that really jumped out to me when I was tasting this the first time was mezcal. It has a real salty, smoky, oily, dirty smokiness that really reminds me of some of the more heavily smoked mezcals, to the point where I did actually wonder if they'd used mezcal casks to finish this, because as I'm sure a lot of you know, mezcal and tequila casks have recently been made legal by the SWA for maturing and finishing Scotch whisky. But I think it's probably just that dirty, oily, smoky side of some of the Islay single malt in this, which my guess would be is probably Kalila. It's just some of those heavily peated, smoky, oily, dirty flavours coming through from that Kalila malt just have a little bit of crossover into that mezcal spirit profile. Speaking of the peat though, I think that on this one a lot of people may be put off by the peat smoke, especially seeing as, apart from the tasting notes, this isn't marketed as a heavily peated whiskey at all. And I think that a lot of people have some dissonance between what's in the bottle and what they thought they were buying. And I think that's probably backed up. I've had a little look at reviews of this on various websites, mostly places that sell it where they allow customers to leave reviews. And it seems like almost a complete 50-50 split between people saying that it's really nice and really good value with great flavours, and the other 50% of people saying that it's just undrinkable, which I find absolutely fascinating. And I think that it probably says a lot about who this whiskey is being marketed to, who's actually going out and buying it. Because I think that those polarised reviews are probably because the peat is quite prominent on this one, probably more so than any cheap blend that I've ever had. And it's quite a young and raw peat, which isn't going to be what a lot of supermarket whiskey buyers are looking for. So I think for Pernod Ricard to put the amount of peat and the kind of intense peat profile into this consumer blend, it's really a bold move. Overall, I do think that it's actually a fairly recommendable whiskey if you're looking for something cheap that's better than your famous grouse new Johnny Walker Black Labels. But I think that you need to be prepared for some young and slightly ugly peat on this one, which has to be said is an acquired taste, especially for a lot of the kind of casual supermarket shoppers who might be considering this. I think that you also really need to wait for a discount on this one as well. Some places, especially online, are suggesting that the full price of this is £40, which is outrageous. That's £5 more than a fully craft presented, fully flavoured creme de la creme Thompson Brothers blend, or £10 more than an equally wonderful Black Bottle Alchemy series. So if you see this for nearly £40, don't pay that. Quite regularly, if you're lucky enough to be in the UK and have access to UK supermarkets, you will see this at around £25. And in my opinion, like a lot of supermarket whiskies, that discounted price is the real price. So I hope you've enjoyed this little video, because it is a whiskey that I've been curious about for quite a while, largely because of that presentation. I know we all say that presentation doesn't matter, but it's nice, isn't it? It's eye-grabbing, it's attention-grabbing, it makes you curious, it makes you think about it, it gets it noticed. It's why they do it. And in this case, I would actually say that the whiskey inside there, apart from being a little bit too consumer and very much over-diluted and underpowered, it's got some interesting flavours in there. So let me know what you think about this one if you've had it. Definitely, by any stretch, I don't think that this is a fantastic whiskey, but I think if you can get it for £25, there's some bang for buck to be had. So let me know what you think, and what do you think of the presentation? And why is there a plague doctor on the bottle? Because I still haven't quite figured that one out yet. I'm sure someone will be able to enlighten us as to the link there. Thanks for watching, see you next time, and cheers.